How can there be so many? There were a bunch of loot chests all over the place. When I noticed a presence behind me, I attacked immediately. Was it just the sound of the wind? But I felt a presence. There was an injured person in there. He must be strong to have survived until now. Should I finish him off and take his loot? No, I'm leaving. I need to prioritize my survival. When I left, there really was someone there. He thanked God for still being alive. Of course he would have won if he wasn't injured, or at least that's what he thought. Soon he went back to looting the chests. That's when I hit his head. I'm a former army sergeant. With my experience, there's no way I die here. But I'll tell you how we ended up in this situation. How he's a strong veteran, even though he's just an ordinary Korean. It had been 6 months since he left the army. Jin Se-woon spends the day reading manhwa. He wanted to live in a different world. At 23 years old, he's addicted. Now he has to get ready to go back to school. Ever since he got discharged from the army, he hangs out at an internet cafe. And then he grinded the game and got into the top 10 rankers in 3 months. The game is loyal ground. 100 players drop from the plane. They collect weapons, supplies, and kill other players until only one is left. He's so addicted that even if his friend dies, alone he takes out a bunch of people. The game is literally a battle royale. At the end of the game there were 2 players teaming up against Jin Se-woon. They went into the house, seeing supplies on the floor. They thought nobody was there, but they were wrong. The main guy is really experienced. Only a sound was heard in the room. Realizing his teammate died, he started running. But soon he got one tapped in the head. Jin Se-woon was the winner. Noticing the time on the monitor, he has to go back because he starts studying tomorrow. Suddenly his mom sends a message giving him money for his studies. On the way back he feels guilty for wasting time. In bed he thinks that starting tomorrow he won't play anymore. He checks some news and ends up falling asleep. The next day, he was on his way to school, and his friend was texting him to play. While he thought about skipping class, a purple light appeared. When he turned around, he got swallowed by the light, leaving only his backpack there. What place is this? There's a giant statue and a bunch of people around. He blacked out for a moment and thought he was being punished for thinking about skipping class. But why is it so loud? A bunch of people were fighting, and there were even mages casting magic. While some fought, others were cleaning their swords. Why were there so many cosplayers here? Where was he? Who are all these people? The statue announced that 100 players had been detected, then it initialized the system, starting with language synchronization. Suddenly everyone was speaking the same language. Even so, people didn't stop fighting. A mage was asking if it was his enemy who brought him to this place. Furious, he said he wouldn't be fooled anymore. But the undead didn't seem to care. Then the archmage starts his attack, and with all his strength he throws a spell at the undead. But nothing happened, and that was confusing. Maybe because he was already dead. Now he was alive? Suddenly the system announces that the game is about to start. The difficulty is on easy, and you need to be in the top 90 to pass. The map is King Kingdom's capital, and the reward will be given to the first top 10. The tutorial was skipped. In the waiting room, player attacks are neutralized, and they were given a game map. The game was Cloyd Survival, and it will last 100 days. Each day the map shrinks. This game will continue until only one is left, and if the game ends or you die, you'll return to the original world. Players who don't place in the top 90 will never be able to enter Cloyd Survival again. In there they can get items to become stronger. Jin Se-woon realized this was identical to Loyal Ground, but there was something different. The humans here seemed insanely strong. Is he the only normal person? Even if it's a dream, he doesn't want to die. Suddenly someone calls out to him. A big man asks what he's staring at over there, and where he's from, but he quickly gets furious at being ignored. At that moment the countdown to start the game began. With 2 seconds left, the man asks if he's crazy for laughing. He's dreaming a fun dream, so why wouldn't he laugh? Pointing his finger he says he has all the knowledge and can easily destroy people like him and survive. Then the game started. Everyone started falling from the sky like meteors. A lot of them were dropping straight down. They wanted the good loot in that area, which must be rare. But at first Jin prefers to play it safe, so he thinks about dropping somewhere more isolated. When it announced the word descend, he hits the ground like thunder. This was really similar to the game. He stood still for a while. He felt sick from the landing, so he decided to go into the house right away. All of a sudden he heard something. He forgot to check if anyone had landed near him, so he ran to the house. Everything would be over if one of those mages landed near him, and he didn't have a weapon. He quickly shut the door. He was panting like he'd been in a Mr. Beast video for money. Only now did he regret mocking the big guy, thinking maybe he had followed him. But when he looked out the window, it was just the sound of the wind. Only then did he go down to loot. He quickly started searching. That's when he bumped into something. It was a heavy crossbow, and it really was heavy, just like the description. He also found the bolts. As soon as he picked it up, how to use it popped into his head. For a Korean army sergeant, this was nothing, so he pulled the trigger, and the bolt shot out like a rocket. This definitely wasn't a normal crossbow. That thing could easily turn into a tank. If he learns to use it properly, it'll be really useful. After searching a lot and not finding anything else, he decided to go loot somewhere else. His idea was to make the most of it before running into a player. He opens the door to check if there's an enemy. He quickly looks for loot, until he finds a scroll. This was an item that could heal him if it was torn. meaning it was something unreal. Now a backpack item or something like that would be nice. When he looked back, he noticed a glow. It was a Black Star QI Palms martial arts book. He quickly taps to learn it. The book floats in the air and tears itself apart. It's like his understanding changed. When he looked at his hand, the hand that had been normal before started to wear down, like he'd been training for hours or years. When he picked up a fork from the plate, now he can throw it like it's a gunshot. Did he really learn martial arts like that? The author just writes whatever's convenient. Our hero quickly pulled the fork out from the wall and was pretty satisfied by the results. He was now certain that this game was similar to Rogue, as since there was a martial arts book, there must be magic books as well. After searching the entire house, the player decided to go somewhere else. It was now nighttime, and the protagonist had spent the entire day gathering stuff and was now searching for a hiding spot. At that moment, he noticed something intriguing. One of the houses had its light on. This could mean that there was a rare item inside it, but the light could also indicate that this hiding spot was already taken. Despite not knowing how many enemies were near him, Seo-woon was certain that the one here was either a fabulous hunter or a complete beginner. According to him, the first floor seemed to be empty. This made our hero believe that the enemy was on the second floor. Seo-woon started to take courage in his weapon and his skill, Dark Star, as they might give him a chance even if the enemy was an expert. And so, he began climbing the stairs. The protagonist was moving slowly, his crossbow in hand, ready for anything. Only then did he realize what was in front of him. Upon seeing the item, and realizing that it was a lamp, Seo-woon began to wonder if he was walking into a trap. Only then did he notice a door next to the lamp. At first, the protagonist wasn't sure if he should enter, but in the end, he forced his way into the room. From the looks of it, it seemed empty. After checking one last time and making sure that no one was here, Seo-woon collapsed to the ground, as he had deluded himself into thinking that there was an enemy in this house. Yet he couldn't deny the fact that him being wrong was truly relieving. Only then did our hero find something in the drawer. The gamer had found a ring that boosted his strength by 20 points. The distributed effect seemed interesting. And so, the crossbow user quickly put it on. The power of the ring immediately manifested itself. Suddenly, the hero's body didn't feel as heavy as before, and the weight of the crossbow had almost disappeared. At that moment, he came to a realization regarding his most recent boost. And so, in order to make sure, he opened his status window. The stats of the young man weren't impressive, yet upon learning the martial arts skill, the game classified him as a martial artist. Seo-woon was pretty happy with the items that he had acquired, as he descended on this land with practically nothing. Now free, he decided to scavenge the first floor. Shortly after, he came across a storage item. This was the second ring that the protagonist had found in this house. The user needed to hold the item in hand and think subspace, and press the ring or think about it in order to open the storage. It was then revealed that the inventory of the subspace ring had limited storage. With that, our protagonist immediately summoned the subspace. This odd ring was rather convenient, as it spared the main character from carrying all of his stuff. He even began wishing for something similar to this ring to exist on Earth. Jin Seo-woon started to think about the life that he would have on Earth if he were able to return with the skills and items that he would have acquired from the game. He then began to search for a kill log in order to see if anyone had been eliminated yet. Our hero quickly found it. Seeing how there were now 99 players left, he decided to keep on farming until 90 survivors remained. Shortly after, upon scavenging the rest of the house, our hero found consumable objects and hidden weapons that would go well with his Dark Star skill. Now he was confronted with the choice of either spending the night in this house or leaving it to search another. It was obvious that the maniacs that were with our hero in the lobby would roam the map even at night. Yet seeing how fighting was the only way to get to the top 10, our boy began to wish to stumble upon more great locations. Since fewer players would be roaming the map at night, Seo-woon decided to check one last location for the day. While walking, he realized just how amazing the strength ring was, as despite having been on the move for countless hours, he wasn't tired at all. The game seemed pretty realistic, as even with fatigue out of the way, hunger and thirst were still problems that the young man had to face. Seeing how there was no food nearby, he began wondering if he would be able to find any in a private house. But just as he began checking the map for the closest one, a beast was suddenly heard. The blood of the protagonist froze in his veins as he realized that something was behind him. He immediately started to move, and hid behind a tree out of panic as he couldn't sense the beast. Upon taking a look at the monster, he realized that the appearance of the creature was familiar. The monster that had now found our protagonist was a werewolf. Panic invaded the mind of Seo-woon as he started to run away while the beast tried to kill him. Its claws were so powerful that they easily tore through a tree. The two beasts seemed to be working together. This game that was supposedly a fight between players turned out to have monsters inside. Seo-woon would have never exited the house if he was aware that such creatures exist on the map. As he used to be in the top 10 of Rogue, the protagonist began to think that he would become a disappointment if he met his end like that. Only then did he spot a house ahead. Seo-woon ran as fast as possible, and just like that, our hero finally hid inside the house. But, with misfortune, the beasts had followed him there. Now in a pickle, he tried to come up with a plan of action. Seo Woon decided to take a quick peek outside. Upon seeing the monsters relying on their noses so much, he realized that they must be tracking his scent. So he decided to attack first, thinking that it would bring him victory, and thus, he pointed his crossbow at the wolves. After aiming his arrow carefully, the hero fired it from inside the house. Just like that, Seo Woon was able to snipe a werewolf in the head. The first of the two threats had been taken down. Due to the strength boost, reloading the crossbow became a piece of cake. But just as the protagonist rushed to do so in order to shoot the other werewolf, he realized something horrifying. The sniper had been spotted, and thus, he tried his best to dodge the giant claw of the monster. But despite his best efforts, his face was scratched by the beast. The werewolf was now inside the house. It immediately charged at the human with murderous intent. Our protagonist tried to shoot it down, but the monster protected himself by shielding his head with his hand. And just like that, our hero was now at the mercy of the werewolf. Yet even when all hope seemed to be lost, he summoned his subspace in order to fight back. From it, he pulled out a knife. The hero then resorted to his Darkstar ambush skill in order to put a hole through the chest of the monster. After going through the thick body of the wolf, the knife bent against the wall. Jin Seo-woon, who was determined to survive, didn't want to be taken out by an NPC. Just like that, our hero was able to clutch a 2v1. At the sight of the two werewolves, he assumed that he was going to meet his demise. The experience was so frightening that he found himself unable to stand on his feet. If it wasn't for the throwing daggers, our hero would have been taken down by a simple mob. Only then did he notice a small pouch in front of him. Seo-woon assumed that this was a monster drop. Seeing how he had gotten food and water, he realized that this game allows him to hunt his meals. The protagonist began considering searching this house while eating his jerky. He quickly stumbled upon armor that he compared to a bulletproof vest in his game. At first, the armor seemed too big for our scrawny hero, but just then it shrunk to match his small size. According to the system, this item was known as the Superior Orichalcum Cuirass that would grant our protagonist magic resistance to fire and wind. Seo-woon was left impressed, as this piece of equipment increased many of his stats. Our hero was certain that this house had something more to offer. He was then left confused, as he felt an item despite seeing nothing. The player assumed that this was a concealed object. He seemed to have found a piece of cloth. Upon putting it on, the system revealed that it was known as the Mantle of the Gods that would allow the user to blend perfectly with the shadows when staying still. Seeing how this item would make him invisible to identification magic and conceal his presence, the protagonist couldn't help but be pleased. This godly item was perfect for survival, as it would allow our hero to move through the night without being noticed. And thus, the young man decided to go put the cape to the test, as he was certain that it would help him on his journey. Seo-woon was lucky to stumble upon this old house in the middle of the forest, as it granted him great items on his second day. Later on that night, Seo-woon began to assume that he hadn't met any player yet due to the fact that he had landed in the outskirts of the map. But just then, the screams of someone came to his attention. This person was running as fast as possible and was injured. The young man with the scarred face regretted not having enough time to use this one item, as it would have allowed him to beat the apprentice. Our hero, under his invisible cloak, watched him from a safe hiding spot. The young man in question was annoyed to have run into a mage. The one with the scarred face didn't seem to be an experienced survivor, and thus, our protagonist was certain that he could eliminate him. Jin Seo-woon then desperately tried to convince himself that this was a game and that he wouldn't be taking the life of a real person. At that moment, the magic words were chanted. A huge fireball flew by our hero. The young man with the burnt face was terrified, as he had no time to react, and just like that, he found himself getting burned to a crisp. At first, our hero thought that he had witnessed a murder, but what he saw next left him completely shocked. Seo-woon, who wondered about the identity of the shooter, was now certain that he was in a game, as he saw a chest appear where the corpse should have been. At that moment, the mage who took revenge on the stable hand who dared to steal his items passed right by him. The red hat found it to be quite a shame, as the boy hadn't died peacefully from his first strike. Seo-woon was left completely amazed by the powers of this cloak, as it allowed him to go unnoticed even with the enemy right next to him. The mage, known as Karen, claimed that this stable hand should feel honored to have been slain by him, and with that, he rushed to check the chest that he had dropped. Our hero could have been demolished by the mage, as he was just a beginner, just like the now dead man. This shocking experience made him realize that hesitation would result in his demise, and so he made up his mind. Jin Seo-woon would now do what was necessary in order to survive. Karen was happy with the item he had found in the chest of his late victim. Only then did he feel startled. A high-speed projectile had hit the barrier that he had put around himself. Karen realized that he had been too loud while hunting his prey, which attracted the attention of another player. Seo-woon decided to take yet another shot, and once again, the mage couldn't react to it. If nothing was done, the magician's magical barrier would shatter, And so, while our protagonist remained calm in his hiding spot, the one with the fire powers began to panic. He tried to predict the direction where the sniper was hiding and fired a fireball at it. The mage then urged the hidden sniper to come out and fight like a true warrior. The response to the stunt came in the form of a flying knife. Its target was the clueless young mage. And before this one could even realize what was happening, his barrier was broken into 1,000 pieces. Charon, who was now defenseless, started to panic even more while urging the enemy to come out. Yet Seowon was determined to stay well hidden. With that, the fire user decided to resort to a powerful spell. Yet before he could even realize it, an arrow had pierced his head. He couldn't even finish the incantation of his attack before having his head blown away by the hidden sniper. Jin Seowon had achieved victory. The eliminated player left nothing but a chest behind. Seeing how he couldn't risk being spotted, Seowon decided to loot the chest as fast as possible before quickly making his leave. The chest of the mage had excellent items, including a medium healing scroll. Our hero had also acquired a necklace of pure gold that was the brand of the Escrow's Magic Council, which he deemed useless but decided to take anyway. Only then did he notice something intriguing in the other chest. Seowon had found the item known as the Circle Stone that would install a magic circle around his heart, which would provide him with mana. Seeing how he would also learn the magic of the nature of the circle, the young man realized that this item could turn him into a true mage. This also made him understand that this was the item that the one with the burnt face didn't have enough time to use. Seowon started pitying this man, yet decided to gladly use his item, and so he dumped everything in his subspace before making his leave. Our hero would now search for a good hiding spot to use this new item. After some time, he managed to find a house that seemed decent. Once inside, the circle stone was immediately used. According to the system, the process, which required him to do nothing else, would take 3 hours and could potentially make the protagonist experience slight pain. And thus, the potential pain started. Seowon did his best to silence his screams during 3 hellish hours of pure agony. It felt like the system had lied to the protagonist, who had almost lost himself to the pain. Seowon understood that magic was harder to learn than martial arts and decided to check his status window. From what he saw, the boy was pleased to see that he had acquired a mana stat. The young man then decided to check the number of survivors, as 2 had perished right in front of his eyes. But as soon as it opened, the hidden sniper was left utterly baffled. More than half of the players had already been eliminated. Upon taking a look at the kill log, he realized that numerous survivors had perished at the hands of a so-called Nam Sa Guang. A little earlier, Amen desperately tried to run for his life. Yet to his misfortune, the one after him greatly enjoyed the hunt. Only then did he trip over a rock. The one with the giant stone fell face first to the ground. Now defenseless, the swordsman started to beg to be one of the 90 remaining survivors. Seeing how he didn't want the others to surpass him, the man began to beg from the bottom of his heart. But despite his best efforts, his head had been exploded by the one that must have become a celebrity among the rest of the players by now. Just like that, Nam Sagwang left the scene, leaving behind nothing but the chest of his latest victim. On the 3rd day of the Salish game, 54 players had been eliminated in the span of a single night. Our hero decided to stay away from Nam Sagwang, who had caused most of the carnage. But only then did he realize that he might be able to use the situation in order to get into the top 10. The hero began to wonder about the prizes that would be given to the top 10, theorizing that he might be allowed to take some items from the game to the real world. CO1 quickly got a hold of himself as he began to dream big, shortly after realizing that there was a serial killer among the players. And so he decided to finish his preparations in order to change location. The young man began to wonder if the power dwelling inside his body realized that he had acquired a magic skill book yesterday. The book in question was the Magic Book of Windball that allows the user to create spheres of wind relative to his power. He didn't think twice before using it on himself. At first, our hero didn't feel any different when suddenly spells began to appear in his head. And just like that, he chanted the magic words in order to activate the spell. With that, 4 mini wind spheres appeared. The young man was somehow disappointed by the result. For that reason, he threw the small balls away. But suddenly, they exploded in a powerful burst of wind. These puny spheres that pack quite the punch had the potential to be convenient. But since he had used all of his mana in one spell, our hero was suddenly tired. With time, the livable zone on the map began to shrink, as our protagonist kept roaming its edges in order to find more items. Seowon began to think that he wouldn't find many players, as their number had greatly decreased, and he wanted to farm as fast as possible before the area got smaller. But little did he know someone was watching him from above, observing every detail of the young man's journey. The old one was left quite intrigued, and so he decided to keep on moving. After half a day, our hero arrived at another set of houses, but what he saw there left him quite speechless. The many chests lying around meant that a carnage had happened in this very place. The instincts of the young man then noticed something horrifying, and so he resorted to his magic powers in order to strike the nearby door with his windball explosives. At first, our hero tried to shake the feeling off. He thought that there was an enemy nearby, but only then did he notice something intriguing. Upon looking inside the house, he realized that it was tainted with blood. This must mean that it sheltered a wounded player. Seo-woon feared that the enemy was skilled, as he had survived this long in the game, yet was tempted to take him out for the items, seeing how he was injured. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next part.